Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, agents. I am Mounty Carl, and welcome to the Division News. This is no longer the Let's Talk series. This is going to be Division News because I want to bring you the most official Division News that's out there. So thank you very much for all the people that watch the Let's Talk videos. We're going to continue with those eventually, but right now we're just going to move into the Division News and bring it to you as it happens. Hopefully live, but it just happens that we just had the state of the game, and probably the most important state of the game ever for the Division, and that is the 1.4 content that they went ahead and talked about. So let's go ahead and hopefully we'll do this really quickly, and this won't be too long of a video, but let's go ahead and go through their issues that they had in the state of the game and answer hopefully a lot of the questions that we're going to go ahead and come up against. Now, the very most important thing that you need to know is the issues that they identified that they said needed to be fixed. And that is that enemies in the endgame are too bullet spongy and deal way too much damage. That is a given. We all knew about that. So the one thing that they felt is that there was no build diversity, that, there were only a couple builds, and I've talked about this, that really there's only Reclaimer and Sentry, and everything else is like down in the B tier and the C tier. And of course, there's people that have their preferred builds like Alpha Bridge and stuff like that, but that's not really an A tier. That's, you're not going to win against a Sentry or a Reclaimer against that, at least not a group, unless you're super good. And there are people out there that are, but I'm not talking about you. And what this means is that there are very limited, amount of good builds, and that is not what an RPG is about. And I like the fact that Massive is identifying this as an RPG and not as a tactical shooter or something like that. And we'll get into some of that later, but there needs to be a variety and multiple ways to build an effective character. And right now we've gone through, and there's a lot of channels out there that try to help you build effective characters, and that is really where the game becomes unrewarding, is because there's only a few looted items that give you an upgrade to your character or that are usable when they drop. And that is a very disheartening thing when you pick up, that one piece of Deadeye gear, or that one piece of Reclaimer gear, and you find out that it's crappy compared to a lot of the other gear that you have, and you really just wanted an upgrade. So it does make the game very difficult. So not only for the solo, but for the unoptimized group. So if you have a group that isn't really well put together, you're going to have a hard time. And so they're really going to work on a lot of this stuff and building that up. And the time to kill and the enemy scaling, there was a huge difference between the 1 to 30 and the end game stuff. While their time to kill is pretty linear in the 1 to 30, it increases so much in the 30 plus end game stuff. And so they went through and they wanted to make a baseline, and that baseline was what happens and what you experience at level 12. And so that's what they're trying to go back to, is what is the time to kill at level 12 and some of that other stuff. So let's go in, let's do some of the stats really quick, because some of the stats are very important. And at level 12, because this is their baseline, the mods that you had on your guns contributed to 6% of the time to kill. And that's pretty good. Like the 6%, like your gun is doing more damage and the mods aren't really, they're there to help. And unfortunately at level 30, the mods that you have contribute 40% of the time to kill, and that is huge. That means that you are running at a 40% inefficiency in your gun and your gear. So if you didn't have any mods on, then you would probably not be doing very well in the game. And at level 30, the skills are contributing 78% of the damage. So things like pulls and smart cover, they're contributing almost 80% of the damage that you're doing, which is huge. It should not be that way. And, the game was balanced for the best possible build. So they're looking at the best possible build and building towards that. And that's what we've been experiencing. So there's a huge damage gap between the best equipped players and the worst equipped players. And that makes the game very difficult for the average in-between player. And the damage fluctuation is definitely, it can be as high as 264%. And that is huge. I mean, and it can be even higher in the live game. But the damage mitigation can be up to 7 times more powerful at level 30 compared to how effective it was at level 12. And NPCs after level 30 are just too powerful. That's just the way it is. But I really want to get into the meat and the bones of what they're going to be fixing. And sure, they're going to be fixing enemy health, damage scaling, and stuff like that. And as the time to kill. So give you an example of what they talked about. The time to kill right now, it takes 2.1 seconds to be killed by a standard Riker at level 33. It will take 6 seconds seconds to be killed in 1.4. Now, the time to kill comparison for you to kill somebody with, say, like an unoptimized build with an ACR is 3.8 seconds to kill a Riker at level 33, and it will be increased to 2.1 seconds in 1.4. Now, those are always great, and I want to go into the reworking of the difficulty for scaling the endgames, but that's not the important thing that we need to talk about. What you need to know is that they're going to be doing this, and they're going to be increasing the kill rate, and there's going to be a lot of different things they're going to be doing to the enemies and stuff, and there's going to be equipment progression, better loot, relevant rewards, and stuff like that. But what we need to talk about is the new world level for 1.4, and that is the biggest thing that we need to talk about right here, because with the introduction of the player being able to adjust the PvE world level, the implications for the user base is going to be huge, whether or not you know it, but it's going to be huge. And I'll mention why in a moment, because this adjustment, however, it works, and it will have serious implications from everything from HVCs to story missions and bringing back a consistency. And that's a lot of what I've been talking about throughout my videos. And you've heard it over and over again, is that the game is inconsistent from the PvE to the PvP, and they needed to bring a lot of consistency back. And so they're doing that. So that is a really great thing. And so, you'll be seeing that in the incursions are the only thing that you're going to be able to run heroics on. I don't know about underground, but heroic missions are going to be for the incursions and the incursions only. And now I say this with a grain of salt, but this change probably has by far the biggest effect on the one thing we all agree is broken and it needs to be fixed. And I think they might have done it, and that is scavenging. Yes, I bring it back from the dead. It is because you can set the world level and the enemies and the gear drop on the streets, and this is where scavenging actually worked, was with the mobs and stuff like that. And now we will start, will we start to see the regular enemies in the real world dropping higher end items based on your scavenging level? Could we see the elimination of farming the 4 horsemen in favor of just running around the open world and building up our scavenging level to get high end 229 and high end drops from regular world mobs? Or will we continue to see the same high end drops as before, just more in the city in search of? And the one question I have are, what is the devs actually doing to get people back on the streets, get them back into the HVTs? Will there be other activities to promote going back into the areas? And the answer is sort of yes. So there's going to be bosses roaming the streets, there's going to be enemies roaming the streets, but we need more information on what's going to really drive that issue. And so a lot of the stuff we'll talk about world level tiers in just a minute, but the world level tiers are going to affect the enemy levels of missions, HVTs, the open world, incursions, and the underground. And I don't know about the incursions and the underground because they said that separately, but that's kind of what they said. So let's talk about the world tiers. So at the tier 1, there's going to be level 30 enemies, basically what you see now, and the highest amount of loot that's going to drop. And we'll talk about the loot changes in just a minute, because this will make more sense. So don't get disheartened when I tell you about the loot that drops, because this is going to change. Your gear score, the max gear score, is changing, and you need to know that, because a lot of this stuff doesn't have any impact on it unless you understand that. So at tier 1, you're going to be able to get 163 loot, and at the rare end, you're going to find 182 loot. And tier 2, there will be level 31 enemies, and the gear score will be 182 loot with a chance of getting 204 loot. Tier 3, you're going to hit level 32 enemies with a chance for 204 loot and a rare 229 on occasion. And tier 4, it's going to be level 33 enemies and 229 loot, and you'll be able to do heroic mode in incursions after you hit tier 4. So that's going to be great. So a lot of people I know are already at that max loot score, so that's going to be great, and it'll be really good. And I'm going to skip over a lot of what they talked about, because I want to talk about the new gear sets that will be for the gear score. And so right now, what you know is 191 will be 163, 214 will be now 182, 240 will be 204, and 268 will be 229. And these are for the mint green tier sets, because the high-end gear sets aren't going to change, because they're already maxed out at that 229 129 level. So that's what's going to be the great thing about this. They're bringing the green gear scores, or the mint green gear scores, in line with what the highest high-end gear score is. So that way you don't need the gear, the gear sets to actually make a decent build. You can actually use a combination of high-end and other stuff to make a decent build. So right now, all enemies are going to be able to drop the best loot for that specific tier. Trash mobs will have a less of a chance to drop that loot than a named enemy. And this is, the consistent rewards, and you won't have to fight content for 10 minutes just to get something relevant. Trash mobs and incursions are still not going to drop that stuff because you're going to get the best rewards out of the incursions at the very end. And they're removing gear drop waiting. The only activity that will drop guarantee rewards is the incursion, and this will allow you to choose whatever activity you prefer and not force you to take part in content that you don't like. So that's great. So the monthly supply drops will still look at your gear score and still say the same, which, I wish they would change this to actually propose a challenge or, something like that, but I understand what they're trying to do. They're just giving stuff away to the people that are doing it. So, all right, so there's some other stuff, they're not touching Dark Zone or PvP, but I think a lot of what is going on is going to have implications with that. And, looking forward, they're going to have the PTS, and they're going to run the technical test for that, and then it'll be available for PC characters. And the matchmaking will be based on your world level, and you'll be able to matchmake with that stuff. So that's always great. This is great news. I'm excited about this. I know that a lot of people, you've heard me, be a little salty about it, but now I'm pumped. I'm excited. I'm officially excited about a lot of the stuff that's going on here. And so let me just finish this up with a couple other things that I wanted to talk to you about. So in previous videos, a lot of people were saying that I wanted the game to be more like Army of Two, and that I missed the entire point of the redesign of the enemies. And you guys missed it went over your heads. This is the high level stuff that went over your heads. You see, with the way Army of Two works, the AI is actually more abundant. They use tactics, and the user feels like they're progressing through the level at a quicker rate. Now, a lot of what they talked about is going to fix a lot of that stuff, but I don't want the entire game to be like Army of Two. If I wanted that, I'd just go play Army of Two. Honestly, EA could make an Army of Two world. I would probably play that over this, but that is neither here nor there. What I want is smarter AI, because right now I can go in and I can tell you exactly what the AI is going to do. There's no doubt about what the AI is going to do. The shotgunner's going to rush forward, the sniper's going to stay at the back sniping, and there's going to be, some in between where the guys throw grenades or they hide behind a wall. And there's nothing there that's going to change the AI and the way they act. Now, I wish they would, because I think that, putting a more of a soldier feel, or even just changing the way they look, because right now everything seems really pedestrian. If I go through one level, I know what's going to happen. I know the enemy tactics and stuff like that. It's all the same. It's always the same. It's never changing. And so that's what made the underground seem so monotonous, is that even though the level changed, the enemy behavior didn't change. And that's what needs to really change. The big thing that I think needs to change is enemy behavior. And I'm happy to see that down the road, and get this right, get 1.4 out, and get this down the road. So, something that feels closer to actually going out in the streets and having a firefight rather than going out in the street and just fighting the same enemies over and over again. That's what I wanted. It's not that I wanted to turn this into Army of Two. I know that a lot of what I said about time to kill and stuff like that, yeah, I would love for a time to kill, and they're addressing that. They're going to make it so that, the time to kill is like what you're experiencing, in the early stages of the game, which is great. I'm totally fine with that, and I'm on board with that. But at this point, give everyone, if you're going to do that and you're going to make this an RPG, put swords in everybody's hand and make this game a hack and slash Final Fantasy version of itself. And that wouldn't actually be too bad. But I would love running around with swords. But something that they should add in the game is probably like a takedown melee or something like that. That would be pretty cool, wouldn't it? So there's a lot of changes that have been discussed in the state of the game, and I'm looking forward to each and every one. I'm looking forward to a lot of the news that's going to be coming out in the near future. So please, if you have anything that you want to say right now is the time to do it. These changes are going to be great. It's going to bring at least I would say 25% of the users that left are going to come back just to try it out, at least for the thing. And then we'll see how far they stick around, because there's going to be people that actually like this type of stuff. But the other flip side is there's going to be people that don't like it. There's going to be people that are salty because they were once gods in the PvP zone, and now they're not. They're just regular people, and they're going to get killed killed, and they're going to be upset, and they're going to whine, and they're going to moan, and they're going to be upset about it because they're no longer at that elite tier where, you know, they're at the top range of the gear score and you can't kill them. So that's going to take care of a lot of this. And so I hope that that does do this, and I hope that we can go out there and everybody, there's some sort of level of equality in the Dark Zone, and that everybody's happy about it. So I know personally I'm excited about it, but unfortunately that's my time, and I'm going to start wrapping this up because I think that there's a lot of stuff that, you know, I can't really talk about right now because there's, you know, I'm just too excited about it. But you can go and watch the state of the game, as some of you have. I'm very excited about it. I think it's going to be great. I'm going to give it a try, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work out, and, you know, we'll move on and we'll all be happier for it, and we'll just go to something else. That's, you know, there's a lot of stuff coming out in the next coming months. So if you don't like the Division, move on. There's nothing wrong with moving on and throwing in the towel, because, you know, and there's nothing wrong with playing other games out there and, you know, playing this on occasion. There's room for more than one game in your library. I'm sure you've bought many of them. So thank you very much for watching this. I know that you guys have many other videos that you need to watch, but thank you for sticking to the end. I love you all, and I wish you all the best, and I hope that 1.4 is everything that you hoped and you got everything that you needed. If you liked this video and you found it informative, then go ahead and drop a like on it, and feel free to subscribe to our channel if you haven't, because we're going to be making more Division news content as the days go on and we get more and more information. I am very sorry that some of this content is coming out late. I did get a new job. I actually got a really great job. I wish I could tell you about it. It's super awesome. It's not in video gaming or anything like that. I mean, there's elements to it that are like that, but it's super cool, and hopefully there will be some stuff coming up in the future that I'll be able to talk to you about on where I work, and, you know, kind of give you an idea as to who I am and what I'm doing. Maybe I'll do a face reveal at like 15,000 subscribers or something like that. We'll see what happens. And because I mean, I have a pretty private life, and I know that I've given you guys a lot of little niblets as to what I do for a living and what I've done in the past. And I've worked for several game companies, and I've, you know, all the way back to the Dreamcast stage. And so there's a lot of stuff that you guys don't know, because I no longer work in the video game industry. I work in the tech industry, and I work for a very big company, and the company that I work for right now is super awesome, and it's super great, and I love it. You know, I'm having a great time, and I'm hoping that there's a lot of really cool tech stuff that I'm going to be doing, and you'll actually be like, oh my gosh, that was you. Okay, so it's going to have a huge impact on your lives, I swear. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. For all of us here at the Division News, I am Mountie Curl, and we'll see you next time in the next video. Mountie out.